Cost of living. Is it a crisis or is it not? Language is quite important in politics. It sets the tone for how governments respond to issues. We have been absolutely overwhelmed by your feedback over the last 48 hours. Thousands of emails and social media responses to this very question, and the answer seems pretty clear from most. It is a crisis. It's been your feedback that's guided us in these past 48 hours. Take a look. Do we have a cost of living crisis?
We are experiencing high inflation at the moment.
My question's to the Prime Minister.
My question is to the Prime Minister.
To the Minister of Finance.
Does she stand by her response when asked if New Zealand has a cost of living crisis?
Is it a crisis?
I wouldn't describe it that way.
What does she say to the mother of five, Christine Nation, who told the AM show, quote,
I've just spent a lot of money on an amazing degree that I cannot go and use because it's cheaper for me to be at home.
We have always been very careful to ensure that we've done things like increase the minimum family tax credit. The point I'm making, Mr Speaker, is the member opposite may only have started talking about the importance of living and increasing wages against the cost of living now. We've been talking about it since 2017.
Well, this morning we head to those at the coalface, those people who are seeing increasing numbers of the working poor asking for help. I'm joined now by 0800 Hungry Warehouse Supervisor Nikki Bentzman and Bay Financial Mentors General Manager Shirley McComb. Thank you very much, Nikki and Shirley, for joining us this morning. Nikki, if I can come to you first. The Prime Minister says it's an impact people are feeling undeniably. Many of our viewers and Christopher Luxon say it's a cost of living crisis. Which camp are you in?
There is something going out there in society and a lot of people are definitely struggling.
Is it a crisis?
It is definitely heading that way.
Yeah, and Shirley, how do you feel? Is it the worst you've seen?
I think it's a perfect storm of issues that people are facing at the moment, and it's not just the cost of food that's rising, but petrol, pressure on supply for housing. So certainly for people, particularly those on sort of low and middle incomes, it certainly feels like a crisis.
Yeah, and you help people with their budgets and work with them to be able to try and live pay to pay, I guess. How much a week extra do people need just to compensate for the increasing costs?
I don't know whether I could give you an exact figure because there's lots of complexity in terms of what that number is. Food itself has gone up, and so depending on the size of the family as to how much more you would need, but we know that food has gone up by 6-7% across the board. But then we've got petrol as well going up. So I would imagine that people, and then we're talking about close to 30% for petrol. So, depending on the number of people in the family, it's probably close to 10% more just to be in the same position as they were a year ago.
Right. So, Nikki, we've spoken to Christopher Luxon this morning, and tax cuts would mean kind of anywhere between $2 and $20 back in the pocket a week. Is that going to be enough to cover the food that people are coming to you needing?
Absolutely not. What you're finding out here, it's not even just working poor. You're finding the pensioners that are really, really struggling, and they're saying we shouldn't be in this position. You're finding people that were in their own homes and now they're in emergency accommodation. So $10 or $20 is not going to make ends meet.
Yeah. Shirley, are you seeing a change in the number or the kinds of people that are needing help?
Yeah, we certainly are. I mean, we used to work predominantly with people who were in receipt of benefits, but that's starting to include more and more people who are working. And I think the difficulty with tax cuts is that it's a blunt instrument, and it's far more complex than that in terms of reducing the cost for people.
Right, but I mean, something has to be done, and COVID has surely put pressure on people's situation. But is this because of COVID, or has COVID just compounded the situation that people are in?
Yeah, it's just compounded it. There's a lot of talk about COVID, and it certainly has had impacts on people, and it's impacted on inflation, I guess, as well in terms of supply. But the problems were there long before COVID came along, and I think that's the concern, is if we put all of our focus on COVID, we miss the underlying issues.
And for someone like you who works with people that are desperate and in some cases embarrassed to have to come and get help, how does it feel to have the Prime Minister not admit or not be willing to say that this is actually a crisis that people are facing?
I think it's a little bit like talking about the environmental crisis. People want to hear that word because they feel like it's a call to arms. And I guess when you're struggling and you're not hearing that validation, it makes your struggle feel less real, I guess, or less understood by other people. So,
Nikki, do you think that the Prime Minister should acknowledge that this is a crisis and acknowledge the struggle that people are going through is to that extent?
Yes, I don't think she has an understanding what's actually really happening out there, and she's really got to step into other people's boots and see what is going on. It is really affecting a lot of people.
0800 Hungry Warehouse Supervisor Nikki Bentzman and Bay Financial Mentors General Manager Shirley McComb, thanks very much for joining us.
Now, I know this is a serious issue, but Nikki, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Have you got a bird there?
Yes, I have.
Can we see it? What sort of bird is it?
That's a lorikeet that we got there making all the noise. The sunconures are in the bedroom because they're really noisy.
Oh, there's even noisier ones.
Can we see? Can we see your bird?
I'll see if I can take the computer over to him and see. He's sitting there going, hello. Yeah, there's the noisy one that's been talking to us.
He's beautiful.
He wants to get on in the action.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, you've got
you can't really see her. And then I will show you. We walk around the house.
This is full noise.
These are the...
Oh, wow. You've got a few flatmates there by the looks of it.
Absolutely. Very noisy.
Fantastic.
Thank you all for joining us this morning and making your voices heard.